everyone. Well, I think it's about time we get started. My name is Carol, and I am the head of growth marketing here at Vendia. And I am so excited to get to talk to my friend and colleague, Francine Klein, today about her favorite topic, data. But before I invite Francine on to join us, I just have a few housekeeping notes. One, as you have any questions, please drop them into the chat. This isn't going to be we'll answer questions at the end. Francine and I want to jump in and really engage with you. So if you see something and you want to follow up on it, just drop it into the chat. We'd like this webinar to be dynamic as possible, and that involves in your input. Please note this is also a recorded webinar and will be shared more broadly. We will follow up tomorrow with this recording and a very snazzy handout we put together for you to share. And if you have any questions about Vendia or Snowflake and want to schedule time to chat with us, we'll drop in a link at the bottom, and we are always available. And with that, I'd like to welcome Francine to join us. Francine comes with a decade of consulting experience, most recently at Slalom. And prior to joining Vendia, she led a team and ran all the back office systems and data for a national software company. Francine has a passion for data management and is currently a solutions architect at Vendia. Welcome, Francine.
Thank you. Thank you for the intro. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our webinar series. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Carol.
Well, Francine, one of our favorite things is to do a little jokes, and I actually came with a joke prepared today, a data joke. Do you mind if I ask you it? Can I tell you a joke?
I need it. I can't start without a data joke.
All right. What is a ghost's favorite type of data?
Sounds scary. I don't know. What is it?
Boolean. How'd I do?
That works. You nailed it. You nailed it.
All right, Francine, take it away.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to our webinar series on cultivating a single source of truth in your lush data landscapes. In these webinars, we'll review examples of how Vendia plays well in the sandbox with other data solutions for collaborating on operational data across all parties to enable an aligned real-time version of the truth. In this session today, we're going to focus on your data networks, unlocking the power seated in your data ecosystem by combining Vendia Share and Snowflake. I also, sorry, Carol, can't help myself. So I'm going to do a data joke too. What does a baby computer call his father?
Oh, I don't know. What does he?
Data. Sorry, I had to. All right. Let's get started. So with an ever-growing slew of data tools, it may feel like we're trying to build a mini city with a combination of Legos, Magnet tiles, and Connect toys. I see you folks with toddlers. And there's an overwhelming complexity to connect these disparate and divergent tools in an efficient, trusted, scalable, and secure manner. And sharing data with our partners, meaning companies outside of our four walls, becomes an afterthought. We email, SFTP, fax, or build point-to-point brittle APIs. We get or send delayed information, and then we have to reconcile the various late additional information within our internal system, getting bogged down in this manual data manipulation. But with an era of data sharing, this ability to collaborate with our partners is getting infinitely easier. So before diving in, let's 101 this thing. So what exactly is data sharing? Data sharing is the ability to share your data with your business network or partners within their respective data systems to foster data-driven capabilities. And that was a lot of words. So why might this data sharing be beneficial? Well, you have some data, but not all the data. And to have a broader, more accurate perspective, data is key, data that your partners may be able to provide. So some examples of this include, you may want external data like financial stock trends, census data, or weather to build a more accurate predictive model of some buying tendencies. You may need to share purchase activity with vendors to build a personalized marketing campaign or allow upstream suppliers to update their product inventory. And then you may just want to monetize your data assets, providing insights through a subscription type service. And all of these use cases require data sharing among data producers and data consumers.
Interesting. So, when you talk about predictive modeling or even the subscription service, it feels like that analytical data is the data sharing is mostly analytical. Is that true all the time?
Good question. So, sort of. It's certainly best suited in this case to augment your analytics data with information given kind of that one way data movement. But soon we're actually going to talk through a scenario in which common data sharing solutions might kind of fall short in this operational back and forth use case. So, that was a good question, and we'll get into that.
Thank you.
All right. So, who's great at data sharing? Snowflake, of course. And as you may have already built out your data consolidation efforts on Snowflake, it lets you easily harness that data that you already consolidated for sharing purposes. And some key benefits of Snowflake's data sharing are you can easily share data with your partners already within the Snowflake ecosystem, making data available within their respective Snowflake accounts. You can maintain control of the state of data by delineating who are data producers, meaning you, from data consumers, meaning your partners. Data consumers have this read-only access, which maintains consolidated control of the data that is shared. And then it encourages consolidating data-driven workloads directly to occur directly on that data or share data within Snowflake. And this embeds well really into these analytical processes, as Carol, you had mentioned. And there's no need for complex or expensive data integration solutions to send data, previously requiring teams of developers and stacks of integration tools, and that's stuff that I used to do. It's great, it's easy to do, and sharing is caring. But let's unpack data sharing in a more collaborative data world. And again, I can't really help myself. So before we jump in, another data joke.
I'm ready.
So yeah, ready? All right. Why are sailors terrible DBAs?
Oh, I don't know. Why?
Because they try to make all of the data float.
Oh, that's
Sorry,
a real
guys.
data nerd joke. I only like
It is.
that one. So I'm not a dating nerd like you. I actually did have a question though. Can you talk a little bit more about what read only access means in this situation?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when sharing data, the company who created it, this data producer, can share data with other companies that also have Snowflake. But in this context of the data that was shared, that person who received the data, the consumer, can only look at the data. They can't actually make direct changes, update information, or add any more to the data set. It is a one-way delivery system.
Got it.
Yep. All right. So let's actually go back to that concept of producers and consumers, but we're going to make it real and put it in the context of an online store as the producer and a shipping company as the consumer or the partner. And we'll go step by step here on how this data collaboration would be realized in a data sharing solution. So the online store receives a purchase, yay, by Jane Doe for some sneakers. And this is written to their main purchases table. The online store creates a data share to provide that purchase information to their partner, the shipping company, so they can execute on this new order. Now, the shipping company needs to manage this data. That's that, no longer read-only piece. And to do that, they copy or integrate that data into one of their tables to be able to update the status to shipped. But they want to share this new status back to the online store so the shopper can see their latest status. The shipping company must now reshare that data back to the online store in a parallel but separate sharing path. The online store must merge that new data back into their original table. And to do this, they have to use an ETL pipeline, some deduplication logic, and versioning to make sure they have the most up-to-date order status. And while this is cumbersome, it's not too bad with two partners, but let's kind of expand this party. Starting with the scenario we just walked through, but let's open up the invite to a broader set of partners. On the right, we have another storefront that also sells products. And on the left, we have another shipping company that we may work with that manage maybe another part of the country, a marketing agency that helps advertise our product, and a product supplier that manages inventory and makes the product. So this other storefront who sells product must receive this shared data from the shipping company and also integrate the latest status into their data set. If they want to collaborate with the shipping company, the storefront must then separately share that data with the shipping company, who then must also integrate that new information into their tables. If the online store collaborates with another shipping company, they must also receive that shared data, and then they must also copy and integrate those purchases into their data set. For the online store to get the latest shipping status, the other shipping company must share that data back, which then needs to be integrated into the online store's table through ETL. That same back and forth with parallel sharing paths and data integration must occur with that marketing agency to receive purchase information and send over insights. And then again with the product supplier who needs to update their inventory based on shopping updates. And this just got really messy really fast. All of this data sharing and merging and deduplication is needed to consolidate and reconcile the various updates across all the parties involved. And each new of these data sharing lines requires a new set of code to manage and merge these updates. And as you can see, it wasn't so bad with 2 parties. But when we have 3, 4, or more, with true data collaboration, it becomes unwieldy and we need more. And so data sharing is a great solution for that read-only distribution model, but for this true data collaboration in which data is flowing back and forth, we need to add more to our data landscapes. And as an aside, just a personal note, the elegance of solving exactly this is what energized me to join Vendia. And after many, many, many years in consulting on projects where the majority of my time was spent reconciling data with the strategy and insights at really the tail end, the way that this can be solved differently proves that this data world is just changing in a really exciting way and in a way that I wanted to be a part of. So yeah, let's get back to it. All right, so let's start fresh. And we'll start with that same multi-party network using a data collaboration solution like Vendia. We have our handy dandy online store and all the partners around them. And the online store has that same purchase and now inventory data. Once it's entered into their data set, it is immediately, real time, shared with every partner in their network. Similarly, you can see that some of the information is actually redacted from certain partners. Right? The shipping company, other shipping company, and marketing agency don't receive the product amount data, and the marketing agency doesn't receive the name as its PII or shipping status. The product supplier receives only the inventory data, and that storefront doesn't need any of the data from the online store, so it's fully redacted. All of these permissions are immediately applied upon creation of this purchase and inventory data. All right, so now the fun part. This multi-directional update. So the shipping company updates their data directly to set the shipping status without requiring any copies. That information, real time, is updated in each partner's respective data set, providing them with real-time information on the latest status as it's made. Similarly, the product supplier updates the inventory, and the online store immediately receives that latest information as well.
Interesting. So, real quick, you talked a little bit about redacted information, which I know is probably helpful when you just want to share with what your partners need and you don't want to overload them with everyone having everything. But where does like thinking about sensitive information or PII or just anything like that come into play with a platform like this?
Another good question. So we actually have an example here. When this information is added, when you add data into Vendia, you can immediately, as part of that, apply rules that specify who can do what to that data. So for my technical folks on the call, you specify standard CRUD operations, read, write, delete, etc. And for the non-technical folks, you just say what people can do. Can they see it? Can they edit it? And you can do that for a certain field, or you can do that for all of the data. And so in this example, you can see we have name, amount, and status is redacted. But in this example, it's fully redacted. And so you can add that sharing with control immediately as part of this data movement.
Awesome.
Yeah, good question. To hone it in, that kind of back and forth, let's just make sure we don't exclude the storefront. So they have a new purchase, and this time sweaters by Steve Smith. And that information also is shared real time with the shipping company that they work with and no one else. So just kind of hone it in, right? You see this back and forth data collaboration that's enabled with Vendia, and it's real time without integration, parallel shares, or merging of updates. And this is a great fit for that operational data world, data that's driving a real time business process. And then, all right, I promise this is the last one you're gonna hear from me, but I gotta do another joke. I can't help myself. So now that we're talking about data moving and managing all of these things, so what happens when a database professional walks into a bar?
Oh, I feel like it's going to involve some sort of fancy drink they order. I don't know. What happens?
They join 2 tables.
Those data
It's
professionals
another technical word.
talk. Oh, we got one from the chat. Can I read it out?
Oh, I would
Oh,
love
no, we
it.
have a question.
Yes.
There we go. I thought it was going to be a joke.
Oh,
But a
okay. That
question.
works as well.
Does the order state in your example require central orchestration?
That is a very, very good question. So we are actually a distributed ledger. And so each of the parties in this, and we'll get a little technical here, has their own isolated data set. And it is completely single tenancy, and it is in the region that they so choose, the region and cloud that they so choose. And so while information is shared and there is a consensus algorithm that makes sure that anyone sending things has the same version of truth, each party has their own individual copy of the data that they can specifically see too.
Great, thank you. And the person that asked that question, we can also follow up at the end if you want to hear more there too. Back to you.
All right. So we're not saying that you have to choose between data sharing or data collaboration. These two work wonderfully together. They're data cousins, and they should both live in your data ecosystem. Data sharing is great for scenarios to expand analytic insights with access to new data that's shared with you, to maintain control of the state of data when you're the only source of truth, and to encourage consolidation of data-driven workloads onto Snowflake for analytical purposes. And then data collaboration should be used for scenarios to create this multi-party, multi-directional solution in which a network is working on sharing respective updates to integrate this data into your broader ecosystem. For example, your CRM applications, we see you Salesforce, inventory management tools, or financial systems, and to ensure your version of the truth is accurate and timely, as everyone is working on the same single version of the truth with real-time updates. And using both of these tools together, Snowflake and Vendia, combines the sharing and collaboration of data to enable this unlocking of opportunities from data outside of your four walls, reduction of these complex and expensive and timely data integration, consolidation, and reconciliation needs, the ability to easily add new partners to both solutions, and the movement of data across clouds and across regions without any limitation. So now that we've kind of walked through this, let's talk through some of the use cases. Focusing specifically on data collaboration, there's a wide range of use cases in which this collaboration is relevant. So on this top half are some common generic capabilities, which are relevant across many industries. And the bottom half is just a sampling of each generic use case that's actually realized in a given industry, demonstrating the breadth of possibilities. So for example, in chain of custody, you can track an entity, be it a customer, account, or security product, actually through all of its stages. So in addition to that use case that we just walked through, another example is it can be realized in insurance with claims management, in which there are many parties providing updates for claims investigations. And then Entity 360, you can get a unified picture of a customer without reconciling various versions or deduplication logic. And this is common in technology as Customer Master or Customer 360 to create a trusted single version of the truth of a complete and accurate customer list. And then with data across everything, meaning regions, clouds, companies, both data and files can be shared across the walled gardens of today's cloud providers. And this is actually seen in finance, where this can solve the issue of sharing data across organizationally isolated subsidiaries that actually legally must be separate entities, but they need to send redacted customer information back and forth. And then lastly, this natural reconciliation. All parties can operate on the same version of data without reconciling updates across systems, parties, teams, etc. And this is an example in travel and hospitality. A joint venture between a set of airlines can allow customers to accrue and redeem loyalty points across any of the other partner airlines, which allows customers to kind of realize the benefits across that entire alliance without layers of integration and reconciliation and settlement. And so you can see there's a myriad of options available across industries in which data collaboration is not only beneficial, but necessary as businesses partner together.
Awesome. Okay, I have 2 questions for you, and then one more joke.
Okay.
Question number 1 is, which one of these excites you the most?
Ooh, that's fun. You're asking me to pick a favorite customer. This is rough. No, all right.
Yeah, or use case.
Or use case. There we go. Actually, one of my favorite isn't even on here. So it's actually also within the travel space, but it's not on here. And it's helping an alliance of airlines, what they call Sell as One. And so they're actually negotiating these travel contracts for corporate business travel. And these airlines are using Vendia under the hood, actually operating essentially as they do today in their respective CRMs. And so each of those airlines are using their respective CRMs, and they're connected with Vendia, and it allows each of those partners to interact with the data, meaning see and update it, within the tool that they're comfortable with, but still get this back and forth real-time data collaboration.
Awesome.
Yeah, you said there was a second?
Well, I think I was going to ask if you had another customer example, or what's kind of the most common one you see.
Yeah, really good. The common one we see is a chain of custody in which there's many different parties updating an entity through its journey. And there's many different ways that this journey can be, right? You can have a loan, you can have a mortgage, you can have a ticket, an airline ticket, and many different parties have to update this thing. And so if you think about the thing that we interface with as an entity, you really kind of think about it through its journey. And those are some of the most fun.
Awesome. So we do have some questions from the audience, but I'm going to first do a joke because I think we all need a little laugh. So I saw a great movie the other day. I can't wait for its sequel.
Ooh, I like that one.
And the good news is every movie comes with a sequel these days, so it's probably an accurate joke. Wow.
And it works because SQL is my love language.
All right. So let's jump into some of these questions. And I think it's kind of a follow-up on the first one. And I think our director of customer success weighed in the chat as well. So maybe it's been answered. But kind of going back to where you had the slide, the catch up with your future, where you're showing the Vendia state. And another way of asking the question is, how is the distributed saga managed? Like, where does each part of the collective or consortium tell what their data will be shared? I believe is what we're getting at there.
Ooh, that's a fun one. Each party interfaces with their own data and only their data, and so they don't see the data that their partners have. They know who else is in their network, but they don't see their data. And so they just interface with the data that they have in front of them, and then they can do the permissions that they have. They can add data, they can edit, etc., based off of their permissions.
Awesome. I think so, but we can also follow up. And I think our friend James dropped in a written document, so this should be good. This is a question that, as a marketing director, I do not understand, but hopefully means something to you. Are there plans to fully support homomorphic encryption to share and work on encrypted data without needing to decrypt it first?
Ooh. Let's follow up with that one.
Okay.
We can talk through our different encryption models, and I would want to know, the person asking that, the encryption methods that you're looking for, what kind of solutions you're trying to solve in that regard, and we can talk through what we support today and what we're supporting in the future.
Awesome.
That's a very good question.
Yes.
All right.
Well, I have a few housekeeping things, Francine, unless there's anything else you wanted to touch on.
I do have one more that I want to talk about, and it's this actual concept. We've talked about data sharing and data collaboration, and I want to touch on this concept of these operational and analytical worlds converging and what that really means. And I'll quickly kind of hit on this because this is kind of how this comes together and the thing that excites me the most. With sharing and collaboration together, these operational and analytical worlds are continuing to converge, and this doesn't mean that we're consolidating all data-related solutions onto a single tool. In fact, we are advocating for the exact opposite. We advocate for using the tool purpose-fit for the job at hand, but one that plays nice with others and appreciates this need for this holistic data approach. And with this vision of this connected data ecosystem, right, you can tackle these initiatives holistically, building answers to both the analytics and business operational systems. And you use tools that are purpose-built for the job, right? Data sharing for expanded analytics insights and collaboration for business processes with a partner network. And this is what makes it really interesting, because when data outcomes are enabled when data is treated like a product itself, and it flows freely, seamlessly, and real time between the respective teams and operational analytical tools. And this is really what we see as the future of data.
Awesome. And it actually leans really well into a question that just came into the chat, which is, if you already have Snowflake share, why would you need Vendia share?
Good question. We don't think it's one or the other, right? We think that if there's something that's a back and forth, then you want to add to your data sharing and collaboration by adding Vendia to it. And Vendia plays really well with Snowflake. If you're doing this one-way directional piece, you have what you need. But if you are trying to actually reconcile updates across the network that you're sharing with and collaborating with, then you need more.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah. So As you can tell, I can yap about data anytime, and you can follow me on LinkedIn to read more or within our blogs on Vendia.com. And of course, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, want to share really good data jokes, or want to talk more about data. Carol, any other questions from you?
Yeah, you bringing up the blog reminds me that one of our most popular blog posts is actually one you authored about operational and analytical worlds combining. Is that kind of building on the same idea we talked today? And how do those two ideas relate?
Yeah, it is. So it builds on this concept of using Vendia for collaboration and Snowflake for sharing, but it actually jokes about the love languages that each of these tools often speak, and also the different teams. Right, it's not just the tools that you're thinking about; it's the teams that are building on it, the skill sets that they bring, and the languages that they bring. Oftentimes, these operational tools speak in JSON, and these analytic tools speak in SQL. And so a solution that really knows that these two speak different languages is what's important. And Snowflake does a good job, and so does Vendia. So they talk well together. And so that's really what that blog talks about.
Awesome. Well, I don't see any more questions popping into the chat, so I guess we can wrap things up here. I want to thank everyone for attending. We hope you found it helpful. It was just meant to be a quick overview, so if you want to double click on any of these topics or dive into it more, we're happy to set up time and talk about your particular, I think Francine's phrase is data product. So how does data move in your company? And as a final bit of housekeeping, please check your email tomorrow for a link to this video as well as the handout, and in case you want to share it around. Thanks all. Have a good day. Thanks, Francine.
Thanks, everyone.